You ever see a grown man lose everything over a plate of yam porridge? Yeah, that happened in my house. Funny thing is, it started just like any other evening, but you know what I mean? It's always the quiet days that end the loudest. I remember the sun setting, throwing that burnt orange color over our small house, turning every corner gold, but inside felt sharp, like something about to snap. The clock ticked too loud, dishes clattered, and my wife, Mary God, her eyes looked heavier than any pot she was carrying. That woman hadn't sat down all day. Washed clothes before dawn, wrangled our kid Grace through algebra, then ran out to take care of old Mrs. Olipo next door. And now, back in the kitchen, she was moving fast, but you could see she was somewhere else in her head. Probably thinking the same thing. Would David come home angry tonight? Was dinner late again? The gate creaked. Heavy footsteps on gravel. I saw Mary's hands tremble as she dropped the fish in hot oil. Sizzle couldn't hide the sound of the front door swinging open. David barged in, shirt sticking to his back, sweat shining on his face, eyes zeroing in on the empty table. He didn't even bother to lower his voice. "Mary, what is this? Every day, I have to wait for food." Mary wiped her hands on her apron, stepped to the door, tried to smile, but it came out crooked. "I'm sorry, David. I just finished up with Grace's studies, then Mrs. Olipo needed help. He cut her off sharp. Is Mrs. Olipo your husband now? I work like a slave and can't get a hot meal." Grace, just 14, sat frozen at the table, books open but not a single word sinking in, eyes locked on the table, wishing she was anywhere else. David stormed into the kitchen, the smell of frying fish doing nothing for his temper. "What do you even do all day?" Mary, holding her apron like armor, kept her head low. "It's almost ready. Please, just a minute." But he wasn't having it. Snatched the ladle, glared at her like she'd burned down the house. And then the world held its breath. Grace looked up terrified. "I do respect you," Mary tried, voice breaking, but before the sentence finished, David's hand cracked through the air. The slap echoed off the walls. Mary staggered, ladle clattering to the floor. Grace screamed, bolting up, "Daddy, stop! Leave her alone!" David spun, red-faced, growling, but after a second, he pulled back, muttering something about not letting this house kill him. Mary just stood there, refusing to cry, not in front of her child. Out at the gate, someone else heard everything. David's younger brother, Emmanuel, home from the army after 3 years, standing there in his dusty uniform, boots worn down from miles. He froze, jaw set. He'd come back to surprise the family, to catch up, maybe drink a beer with his brother. Instead, what he heard was the sound of something breaking. He didn't open the gate. Not yet. Inside, Mary bent to pick up the ladle. Grace ran to her, whispering, "It's okay, Mama. I'll help. Please don't cry." Mary forced a smile, hugging her daughter close. In the living room, David slumped into his chair, turned the TV up, so loud it shook the windows, trying to drown out his own guilt, maybe. Shame so thick you could taste it, but he'd never admit it, not tonight. Dinner was eaten in silence. No one looked up. After a few bites, David pushed away his plate. "Food's cold." Mary just nodded. Grace fought tears. Emmanuel still waited outside, fists clenched, memories of his brother as a laughing boy flickering in his mind. Had David always been like this? Or had something twisted while he was away? He decided tomorrow he'd come inside, but tonight he let the dark swallow his anger. After dinner, Mary tucked Grace in. The girl clung to her, whispering, "Mama, why does Daddy shout? Why did he hit you?" Mary brushed her hair, voice gentle. "Some people forget themselves when they're angry. Your father isn't always like this. He's just tired." "But it's not right," Grace said, voice cracking. Mary nodded, tears finally spilling. "It's not right, but we have to be strong. Things will change. I promise." She kissed Grace, slipped into the hallway, eyes burning. David was already passed out on the couch. She looked at him, remembered the man she'd married. Where had he gone? In the kitchen, Mary washed dishes, hands shaking. The house was quiet, but her mind was a storm. She prayed for strength. Outside, Emmanuel finally walked away, the war inside him just starting. Morning crept in. Mary was up early, her face swollen from crying. Grace lingered in her room, dreading breakfast. David woke last, saw Mary's face, a flicker of guilt passing over him before pride smothered it. He grunted, grabbed his phone. Mary set a hot bowl of porridge in front of him. "Good morning," she said, barely above a whisper. He said nothing. The silence felt like a third person in the room. Then, a sharp knock at the door. David frowned. Who visits this early? Mary opened it and just stopped. Emmanuel stood there, bigger than ever, in that dusty uniform, bag at his feet. Mary gasped. Grace's face lit up. David, shocked for a second, covered it with a grin. "My brother, Zodiaman." Emmanuel smiled, but his eyes were cold. "Surprise. I needed to see my family." Around the breakfast table, David turned loud and cheerful, acting as if last night hadn't happened, bragging about his job, filling Emmanuel's plate. But Emmanuel watched, eyes sharp, listening to what wasn't being said. After breakfast, David tried to steer Emmanuel outside, wanting to control the conversation. "Not now, brother," Emmanuel said, voice quiet but firm. "I want to talk to Mary and Grace, too." David's face tightened. "What's there to talk about?" Emmanuel locked eyes with him. "Family. Home." The room tensed. Emmanuel took a deep breath. "I heard what happened last night, David. I was outside the gate. I heard you shout. I heard you hit your wife." The room froze. David shot up, angry. "You don't understand. You've been gone too long. It's different here." Emmanuel shook his head. "Some things should never change. You're not a king in this house. Mary is not your servant. Grace is not your shadow." David tried to defend himself, blaming stress, money, the world. Emmanuel cut him off. "And that gives you the right to hurt them?" Mary, voice shaking, tried to defend David, but Emmanuel turned to her. "Don't make excuses for him, Mary. I've seen real fear. Men begging for their families with their last breath. You two are lucky to have each other. But you, David, you're throwing it away." Then, the twist, Grace, silent until now, spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared, Uncle. I'm scared all the time now." The words shattered something. David stared at his daughter, really saw her, maybe for the first time in months, her red eyes, trembling hands. "I'm sorry, Grace. I didn't know." Silence. Emmanuel stood up. "You have a choice, David. Keep pretending nothing's wrong, or fix it. I didn't come home to watch my family fall apart." They sat in that heavy quiet, hope flickering, fear still thick in the air. But as afternoons slid into night, the cracks in the family started to show. Dinner was quiet. Afterward, Emmanuel said, "Let's talk. All of us. No secrets." They sat in the living room, David looking beaten, Emmanuel's words cutting straight through the quiet. "I know how things have been. I know Mary's been selling at the market to make ends meet. I know Grace is struggling at school. This isn't about money, it's about fear. I saw it last night. I heard it." David, pride wounded, lashed out. "So now you're better than me, because you wear a uniform?" Emmanuel just stared at him. "No, but at least I know when I'm hurting the people I love." Mary finally spoke, voice steady. "No one is against you, David. But we live in fear now. We don't laugh. Grace flinches when you shout. I can't even breathe sometimes." Grace whispered, "I used to love coming home. Now I pray school never ends." The words broke him. And that's when everything exploded. Grace ran from the house, tears streaming, Mary chasing after her, David and Emmanuel sprinting into the street. Grace tripped, hit her head, lay still. Emmanuel checked her pulse. "She's breathing, but we need the hospital." They rush her there, time crawling. David held Mary's hand for the first time in years. The doctor's verdict, she'll be fine, but whatever's happening at home, fix it. This kind of stress will break a child. Back home, after Grace slept, Emmanuel pulled David aside. "You used to be my hero. Now you're the bully. Is this who you want to be?" David finally cracked, sobbing. "I don't know how I became like this. Life just got too heavy." Emmanuel squeezed his shoulder. "Real strength isn't about control. It's about patience, kindness. Protect your family." That evening, David tried something different. He set the table himself, thanked Mary for cooking, listened as Grace shared her school stories, apologized again, this time from the heart. Emmanuel watched from the doorway, a quiet smile on his face. But he knew this was just a beginning, not an ending. Before leaving, Emmanuel hugged everyone, then told David, "Home is a battlefield too, brother. You win by protecting your people, not fighting them." David nodded, watching his brother disappear down the road, something strange and hopeful stirring inside. That night, for the first time in a long time, the house was quiet not with fear but with peace. Mary and Grace slept soundly. David sat in the kitchen, pen in hand, writing a list of things to fix, things to change. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but at least now it could be different. And maybe that's the lesson. Real strength isn't about anger or control, but in choosing patience, choosing kindness, choosing to break the cycle before it breaks you. You can leave scars with your words and actions, or you can start healing if you're brave enough. So tell me, if you were in that house, where would you stand? Is forgiveness enough, or does justice need something more? Drop your thoughts below. What would you do for the ones you love, and where do you draw the line?
Xin chào các bạn, mình là Trinh, mình phụ trách viết content. Trên đây là những công việc của mình là mình lên mạng xã hội tìm.
Next one? Alright. Thank you, man. Hey, if you guys have any trouble, let somebody know. Please.
After the tree to hold on to.
Yeah, they're-
Use the fence.